Hello, everybody. Zeidoktor here with Typical Manga Fan, and we're starting this episode of Typical Manga Review on a new series, the one that we have not reviewed before, My Hero Academia, or Boku no Hero Academia. This will be our first review, and we're starting with Chapter 94, Directives and Designations, is what it's titled here. Quick little rundown of our own experience with this series before we start. I discovered it sometime last year. I think I started following it week to week around the time of the sports festival, right before Deku fought Todoroki, or maybe it was like when he was fighting Shinso. The guy you probably don't know the names I'm speaking of here because you're more recent into this, but basically there's a character, but yeah, basically around a tournament arc. Basically, is when I started following it week by week, and I've been kind of following it since. And I haven't really followed the anime much, but I follow the manga each week as it comes out. So, right, and then for you,
For me, I just recently, I heard about it like a year ago, but I didn't really try to get into it until just a few weeks ago. And I read like the last 4 chapters or so.
mm-hmm.
I have read up on a lot of it, so I know I get the gist of what's going on. In terms of actually starting to watch and read it, I'm gonna start watching the anime, this weekend, and then from where the anime is left, because it's not done obviously, it's still going on. So then I'll switch to manga and try to catch up. But in terms of this chapter that we're going to talk about, I know enough to know what's going on. I understand how the abilities work. I understand who's the villain, who's the bad guy, and I understand what's going on. Because I'm very good at reading up stuff that I haven't directly read from the source material. So
Yeah,
I will start on the source material by the end of this week.
Yeah, I'm different in that sense. Like, I can read up on it, but it's never the same as actually reading the source material for me. Like, I can read the wikis, I can read the TV tropes pages, but all that really makes me want to do is actually see it for myself.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually what I use to determine whether I feel like it's worth my time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more information to absorb at once, and it's sometimes it's actually faster for me to understand everything by reading this and then just reading the latest chapter and then not having to like spend hours trying to catch up, reading the chapters or watching the anime, whichever. So. But for this one, I think it's worth my time to actually start. But for now, the reason why I want to start this week instead of next week, where I'll probably be caught up, is because I think this is a really big chapter that I do want to talk about. So there.
And this chapter opens up where the last one left off. Basically, last week we have the climactic battle between All Might and his arch nemesis All for One. All for One let out basically an attack of massive arm attack, like literally bunch of arms coming out of his own arm. Like All Might tries to meet it head on, but what he actually does is like, he's in his weakened state right now, so he has to channel. He can only channel his power to like one arm at a time, and he kind of changes that at the last moment. Probably the best for our sake, I think the best trip I can think of was when Luffy uses Gear Third, and he moves the air from one arm to the other.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to see what this would be like animated.
Yep.
It seems so epic. I mean, just when you look at page 4, just the details into every
Yeah.
every skin, like piece of the skin, and it's amazing.
Yeah, the guy does put in the work. You got to give him that.
Yeah.
Hero, I think was it Hiro Kishi? I think is his name. I'm thinking on the name offhand here. Yeah, Hiro Kishi. Horikoshi. I had slightly slipped up there. Oh, real quick, little fun fact. In the Japanese volumes for One Piece, they have like a fan art artist corner, and way back during the manga volumes for the Alabasta arc, he actually had fan art published in it. So probably when he was like real young, like teenager or so, or if not younger, like he actually had fan art published in One Piece's volumes.
It's always cool when you see people's origins, or at least kind of a hint, a hint of it.
Yeah.
And seeing how they develop as the years go by.
Yeah. And he's had a couple other series between now and then, like a couple other mangas. I think that I don't know if there's any that went really long like Academia has, but he's had a couple of runs so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's very common for a lot of the initial work to never really become as big until like the 4th or 5th work. I mean, that's how a lot of people break in. They get some practice, they develop they hone their skills, and then they get something that hits.
Yep, and I think this is like his 3rd series. I think I've looked at one of them, but I haven't really looked at it in detail.
Yeah.
In any case,
yeah.
Good.
So, and then All Might's like, this is farewell, and it's kind of sad.
Well, actually, what I like here, there's like a little thing here is going on. It's like he's throwing his final punch, because punch 1 was like kind of deflect a blow, and now he's like putting his back into it, like really hitting hard. Like, this is farewell, all for one, as he punches the guy out. And then on the next page, like, he's also saying that this is for farewell, one for all, to his power.
Yeah, so he's saying United States of, and then it's just smash. Did he say United States of America or something?
Well, his trend in move names is using either state names or American states or American cities as their part of the name, like Detroit
Okay, so
Smash.
okay, because I know I think because obviously his at least his All Might form is a reference to the American Western comics style of
easily,
drawing.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that this is sort of like, now that this is his final goodbye, let's make it the whole damn country.
Yeah, pretty much like his ultimate attack.
United States of America, yeah, USA,
Yeah.
USA, USA.
And Deku tends to emulate this as well when he uses his own attacks.
This I know this manga is gonna be to my liking.
Yeah, like I said, I've liked it so far. It's like it's definitely a lot more creative, like with powers and things like that, and character-wise. Like, I'm curious. For the record, I think you already know about it, but I'm curious to see what you'll feel like when you actually read through the parts with Todoroki, the Fire and Ice Boy, and his father Endeavor.
Yeah, I have read about it.
Okay, I want to see your explanation when you actually read it firsthand.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, this blast is like just powerful. Like everything's getting blown away. We see like a massive crater with him like buried in it. Everyone's just like watching in awe.
Oh well, yeah. This is, dude. I'm reading it, and I'm in awe.
Yeah. I like the detail in the crowd shot here as well on page 7.
Yeah. Because I like how some people are sweating, some people are like, holy. Actually, everyone's sweating. But everyone's like, the facial expressions are kind of like, he's actually, they're not just faceless people. You see who they are.
We also see,
they all have really weird faces.
Yeah, Bakugo, some of the other guys that are there, some of the heroes on the scene all watching, and
Endeavor's there too.
Yep. He actually managed, like, All Might managed to get an arm up and like that's kind of a victory pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. This is awesome. And it was like, yeah. Dude, this is the guy crying too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the guy in the chopper there.
It's like, oh my god. It's like Bartolomeo. Every time he watches Luffy just do something. God, I'm gonna have an orgasm.
Yeah. One of the heroes is like trying to tell All Might that he should save his strength, but Gran Torino stops him because he's thinking about when in the past when he talked with All Might's mentor, like, right now this country doesn't have a pillar, and he wants to be that pillar. Like, leave him be. He's doing his job right now. And like this, the symbol of peace, the number one hero. This is pretty much his last hurrah.
Actually, oh, you saying?
I didn't realize the first time, like, because I kind of skimmed through these quickly the first time around. But later on, I realized like he's actually in his full All Might form as he's doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking like, is this what they see, or is this him actually turning it back on for like 2 seconds?
Actually, now you say that, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming he's actually like turning it back on for these few seconds.
Okay. I actually kind of wanted to, because I'm sure they don't have this yet, but I want to read his prequel story, like his story, you know, because he does interest me. Like, he's not just the mentor. Because a lot of times you have the mentors and you don't really know anything about them, and you just see them, you know, helping. They might talk about that past occasionally, but you see them mostly helping out the main characters.
Yeah.
And this one, I'm actually interested to know his backstory, and you know about him as a character rather than just a mentor.
Yeah. I mean, right now, this arc is the most we've gotten about his actual backstory. Yeah. The most otherwise we've gotten would be the origin of One for All itself, which does come in a particular chapter. But in any case, we see all the other heroes are running around, like doing rescue work and getting people out of safety. And even though like they're doing rescues, like the reporter points out that casualties will possibly are expected to be high, and they're getting All for One like locked up in the Maiden, which like just looks like a big old metal tube to keep them confined.
You know, for a second there, because I'm so used to reading Bleach, I was like, maybe, is he gonna like jump right back up something? Oh no, he's actually down.
Yeah, one thing with, as we'll kind of get into as we get to the end of the chapter with All for One is like he's very diabolical. Like he's the guy who can turn failure into success. He did that in an earlier arc involving a character named Stain. We actually will see right here. But anyway, as I said, at that point, All Might actually strikes a pose and points at the camera. And
actually, is he pointing at the camera? Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and he basically just calls out, "You're next," and everybody's like, "Oh, that is so awesome!" Because he basically thinks he's declaring war on the rest
criminals,
of the bad guys. But Izuku, he's like getting a whole different meaning here from it.
Yeah, he's saying that. He's like, at first everyone, he says what we just said, like, everyone thinks that he's basically declaring war on the criminals, but he says that it actually has the opposite reading. It's saying that All Might's time has come to an end.
Yep.
And he starts crying.
And we also see kind of Bakugo like watching him kind of silently here, which
I
I
also,
found interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I actually thought he was pointing at Deku, and Deku just happened to be in the same direction as the camera, which has been a lot better, actually.
Well, that goes nowhere near the battleground right now, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe, but I think he is technically pointing to Deku, right? Through the camera.
That's the
right?
intent, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Anyway, like I said, I find Bakugo's reaction here kind of interesting because what it is, like, Bakugo knows that Deku got his power from somebody else. He does not know anything more specific than that, though.
Okay.
Or at least, Deku specifically told him that at one point. And he might have had some little clues here to put it together, but this is, like, probably the most blatant thing we've seen, as far as clues go. And actually, there's actually one point where Todoroki, like, also notices the similarity between Deku and All Might. He's like, and because, like, quirks in this series are usually inherited genetically, his immediate thought was, are you, like, All Might's love child or something?
I will say this one thing. I wonder if people notice the naming of the last names or something, or the name, or the first names, or whatever.
Well, I don't know if that would happen here, because I don't think, for starters, I don't know if anybody even knows All Might's real name.
Oh yeah, you're right. And also, I feel like that's thing for the readers, not for the characters.
Yep. In any case, we get some narration here now, where All for One is pretty much put in the most maximum security prison of all time. Like, he hasn't even gone to trial yet, but given what's happened, they just need to make sure he's, like, confined.
Well, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, you don't want to wait for like the bureaucracy to wait, to give this guy some freedom.
Yeah. And then he's like wondering like where he is, like, and we get the stock sadistic prison guard like, you can tell, can't you? Ha! This is the place for criminals where even the death penalty's not enough. He's going full impel down on this. But it's like All for One's like, a prison. I didn't know. There's too many censors here. Because what
turns out he's blind. Well, I always thought he was blind though. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, but at the same time, it's not like made obvious because he's not really acting like he's blind.
Yeah, and it's because he had a quirk that allowed him to sense like infrared, what's it, vibrations in the air and infrared stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he can't do that because of all these sensors.
Like,
so
they're messing with the senses, and the guard's like, "Holy crap! You fought All Might like that?"
Well, to be fair, All Might was in a pretty bad condition himself.
Yeah, but most people don't realize this fact. Like, the fact is, like, the reason All Might even has like the whole French fry form, as it's sometimes called, is because of his last fight with All for One.
Yeah. Wait, French fry? What the hell?
Well, that's a nickname I've seen occasionally used for All Might when he's in his skinny form.
Okay, I thought that was his normal form that he was before he got his powers.
I'm not sure how that works out, actually. I mean, I think that's what it is, but at the same time, like, he can't because of his last fight with All for One, he can't maintain the superhero form for.
Yeah. I know that. I just felt like, I was thinking of that because I was like, well, if you think about it, it makes sense because people will remember growing up with someone like that if that was his real form. But if it was this weakened form, then people would like, oh, yeah, it would make sense because no one would ever expect him to be All Might.
Yep. Anyway, as All for One is wheeled through the prison, we also get a quick glimpse of another past enemy here, Stain. That's the guy on page 17.
Yeah, I see him.
Yep. And then at this point, All for One's like, I lost, All Might. It was truly an unsightly struggle, but you made a mistake. I hoped that the battle would provide a chance to get close to my pupil. You misread your time to say farewell, and you lost your time to die. Which for me is probably the single most ominous line in this whole chapter. But to be a teacher means to make your pupil be able to stand on his own. With the teacher he's relied on vanishing to a place he can't reach, this will fan the flames of hatred in him. He'll step forward to take the lead. He has allies around him, and he's learning how to make more of them. Everything will be okay, Shigaraki Tomura. Experience, hatred, regret, let it all make you stronger. You're next. We see like Tomura and Deku together here.
I was thinking like, let the hate flow through you.
I always wanted to go Yoda, like, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to the dark side. Which I
always think it's the coolest side, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, it's probably true because like when we saw a brief flashback of Tomura and All for One first meeting, because like he's like a little kid all alone by himself, and he's like kind of coming to his rescue. And I am curious to see what Tomura will be like here, because like I said, you haven't read the actual series yet, but the first time we saw Tomura Shigaraki, like he's basically like a man-child. Like All Might even uses that exact phrase for him, man-child. Like he's talking about this like it's like a video game almost. He refers to All Might as the final boss. Like the very first time we see him in action.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he actually, so in a way, he actually has been maturing in a weird sort of way.
He has been what?
Maturing in his own way.
Yeah. But of course, so has the main character, Deku.
Yep.
And so, I mean, honestly, the whole "you're next" thing is all about to the new generation. So obviously, All for One's time is done, and One for All's time is done too.
Well,
Now it's to the next, and so I think All for One, is he gonna like give his power to
I don't know if All for One's power works that
just-
way.
okay.
One for All specifically is the ability to stockpile power and pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah.
But All for One, his power was basically like to be able to steal and redistribute quirks.
Yeah, but didn't he give his power to his brother the first time?
He gave a power to his brother.
Oh, a power. So maybe he can do the same to Tomura. He gives all of his powers to Tomura.
Okay, hang on. That was the difference. I'm sorry, I got it mixed up a bit ago. One for All, like the brother's when in the origin story, the brother's power was specifically the ability to pass on his power.
Okay.
And that really did nothing by itself. Then he got the All for One gave him the power stockpiling thing, and that's created a One for All.
Okay. See, right there, he said All for One gave him the stockpiling thing.
Yes.
Can he do the same thing to Tomura, but just everything else at this point?
Presumably, but at the same time, it's shown that I think it also explained that him giving powers to others can be damaging to the recipient. So
Well, I mean,
that's where
to be
those
fair,
that's where those Nomu monsters I think are supposed to come from. Those big creatures that he has.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Tomura being the main villain is probably gonna be like the one guy who can take it all in, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, very probably.
They'll probably have this thing where he might be like trying to it's so much power, like Death, getting all that power at once, and then they're just like, oh nope, I'm the main villain, so I can control it.
There also was a point a couple chapters ago where he takes out Best Genist.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he actually makes a point of saying like, his quirk isn't really suitable for Tomura.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually thought Best Genist died, and apparently he's still alive.
But at the very least, he got pulled out of the fire.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, oh, wait, because I thought he actually flat out killed him. Also, one thing I want to point out is that in the wiki, they said All Might's dead. I don't see him dead. I didn't think he died at all. I thought he was just,
Well,
tired.
there were a lot of death flags being raised in this whole situation.
Yeah, but I mean, after this chapter, they still said he was dead. So I don't think so. He's still alive.
That's why I don't trust the wikis too much. And that's why that's one reason I was going to go to read it for myself.
Oh, they're alive now. Still alive.
They changed it?
They changed it back.
Okay.
But because it's
They
sort
heard
of
us
like...
talking.
Huh?
They heard us talking. They heard us talking about
they heard us talk. Oh, I see. I mean, I checked yesterday, so I mean, something could happen. Or the day before, I forgot which day I checked. But, what I like about this series is that it really defines, I think, what being a hero is all about. Inspiration, saving people, really not only saving people, but inspiring the people you save to become heroes themselves.
Yeah, and that has been a big thing with All Might. Like, there are at least 4 characters in the current generation that have been directly inspired by All Might into wanting to be a hero that we know of.
Yeah, and I think the sad part about Tomura is that he was saved by All for One, and then that was what caused him to kind of go towards that path, I think, or at least a big part of it. But I just think about the movies that we have, because I like to bring this up because this is obviously All Might is a reference to the Western comics where
right.
The reason people love the original DC, Superman, even Batman, is because they were very inspirational. More so with Superman, because he was supposed to be the inspirational guy.
The big little Boy Scout.
And just knowing what happens in the newest stuff like BVS, Man of Steel, it's so dark, so gruesome, so somber, so gloomy. I just don't know. I don't know if it's just Zack Snyder or just a lot of people these days, but I think people have forgotten, in my opinion, what it means to be a hero. And I think it's really telling that I at least very satisfying to see that someone from another country still holds on to what he's. I mean, this guy's clearly inspired by Western comics and probably Superman.
Unquestionably.
So it's just really heartwarming to see that somebody is still maintaining that what he got from the original Superman and other DC comic or maybe even Marvel comic heroes too, and holding that to and is actually holding that high in this manga, and just seeing it's just really good. It's a breath of fresh air after all this crap, and especially with so many people who are so in love with this idea of dark superheroes, gruesome, the Watchmen type of thing, which is fine if you're into that.
Yeah.
But I just don't want. It was just bad seeing Batman and Superman be pulled into that too. So it's just seeing these characters who they have no prior reputation before this manga was made. Like no one knows who All Might didn't exist before My Hero Academia. These guys are all unique to this characters, all unique to the manga, and they've been able to establish themselves in such a way that they are inspirational. They are people who I can say, you know,
Yep.
if you give them enough years, they'd be like, hey, you know, that guy is the one I think of when I see a hero, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just really happy. That is what got me into this manga. This is seeing
like-
all this crap from what it means to be a hero and all these over analyzing, make it all, you know, like religious references. Dude, just being a hero just means saving people and inspiring other, and you know, protecting everyone else and inspiring them to become heroes themselves.
And from a different standpoint, but in a similar vein, like My Hero Academia, it's not really a revolutionary series. It does not like strike new ground. It's a very standard series in a lot of ways, but the execution is great enough that you enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a love letter, right?
Yeah,
to what a hero is.
I've said before, in a lot of ways, everything's always about the delivery, and this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think actually I think that's what they even described Captain America, the Civil War. Be like, the reason why it doesn't, the reason why it succeeds, anyway, it doesn't break the superhero genre, but it succeeds because it doesn't try to.
Right.
And it's sort of like, okay, My Hero Academia isn't exactly, I mean, not to say they're the same thing, but I mean, they're similar in terms of showing what a hero is all about. Where in this one, My Hero Academia isn't trying to break anything about the superhero genre, or is just not trying to make anything something like overly dramatic or whatever. It's saying something rather simple, and it's just making you enjoy it and really get something out of it. In a very refreshing way, especially with all the stuff we get now, where people, I guess, are tired of the brand of the goody two shoes superheroes, which okay, fine, you know, but you know, I just think that it's a great way of getting something different, but in the same, but having the same meaning behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty stoked for what's going next. I mean, obviously this is a transition chapter. We're going into a transition arc afterwards.
Yeah.
This is a finality. This is the ending of the previous generation. And I'm actually, you know what? I'll say this. What it's doing is better than what Naruto does.
Right, because they had a big thing about like past the
new generation.
Next generation, but it's like I don't know if we read it or if you pointed it out, but it's like they had this whole big thing, but then the oldest character ended up being the most powerful anyway.
You know, I pointed that out. I was the one who pointed that out.
I said, okay.
Yeah, they said over and over again that the third Hokage was the strongest, but it actually turns out the first Hokage was really the strongest. What the frick? And that Madara's the strongest, even though he's stronger than, you know, all the other younger Uchihas. And actually, no, it was actually the Sage of Six Paths who's stronger than everyone, but he's older than everyone.
Then you get his mother, who's literally older than dirt.
Yeah, and then she's actually the most powerful of all because she's like the origin of where the chakra came from. It's just like the older they got, the more powerful they were.
Yep.
And if you think about it, the only reason why the older guys were able to be defeated was because the newer guys decided to do teamwork, which is good in of itself, right? Yep. But it doesn't really say much when it comes to the newer generation being stronger than the old, other than that they work together more, which I guess is a thing, but it's not. It doesn't to me stand out as much as you know, Naruto taking on Madara or something.
I was gonna say Pain, but yeah, okay. You know,
no, Pain. Yeah, Pain works too.
Yeah, and in this case, they also don't necessarily make a deal out of the next generation being stronger. Just that the next generation will be the one that takes over.
Yeah.
Our time is done. Your time comes next.
Yeah. I mean, I think they also had this thing with Naruto where there was one guy who was like telling them how to beat him, and he's like, you know what? Never. And actually, yeah.
That was one of the Kage zombies, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was. But here's the thing, though: like all the zombies were stronger than the current guys. They killed a lot of the current guys. Like the twins, or not the twins. The brothers.
The brothers that had like the nine-tail power.
Who, by the way, we'd never heard of before. They just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then it took like they killed a bunch of the smaller soldiers, and the smaller soldiers they're not important characters, but they're still part of the new generation. So it's like the new generation is stronger if only a select few, and they have to work together.
Yeah. And in this case, like I said, the next generation isn't necessarily more powerful, but they are powerful in their own right. They've got their own place to claim.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think to me the execution was just all messy, like, you know.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean,
but Academia does pull off a lot better, at least to date.
Yeah. I mean, is Sakura even stronger than Tsunade? I can't even tell from that. But anyway, yeah. So this, I think, My Hero Academia is a lot better in terms of its execution of that theme, at least. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say for that.
Yep, like I said, this is definitely a good chapter, but like I said, it's mostly transition, but it's definitely an important chapter. And I am curious to see where we are going to go here in the aftermath. Like, who knows, who figures out what goes on from there. But in the meantime, that has been our review of My Hero Academia, Chapter 94, Directives and Designations. Go ahead and take us away.
Bye.